video you're about to watch has been designed to take you deeper, higher, and wider into Yahweh. Enjoy, and please subscribe. Thank you.
Lord, we just want to glorify and magnify your awesome names. Just living out of your throne, just living out of your kingdom, just having the ability through your blood, Yeshua, to constantly find ourselves in your presence, so that intensity of your glory and your fire in our hearts, Lord, knowing that you are for us, not against us. As a matter of fact, that you just want to bless us and increase us, that your desire is to take from the heavens and to give to us in the earth, to fill us, to fill our bosoms, Lord, to multiply to us 1,000-fold, to give us everything our hearts desire. Matter of fact, you're so intense with all of this, you're putting your desires into our hearts. You're changing our faces, Father. You're changing the way we live, the way we perceive things. As a matter of fact, we can have authority over the sun and the moon. We can have authority over the earth and all of creation and stand with you, hand in hand, the right hand of an awesome, majestic, beautiful God called Yahweh, and enter into him and shift dimensions with him and create with him. Father, you are an incredible God. We love you. You have placed us higher than the angels and every demon on earth. You have placed us in a position that no other created being has ever seen, and it's your image. So, Father, as your sons and daughters, we want to stand in that place, and we want to do what's needed, Father. We want to honor you. We want to represent you, my King. We ask that you'll open our hearts for revelation, Father. Open up who we are and pour into us all that's available. Those who are watching on Facebook and YouTube, Father, I ask you to just enlighten your sons and daughters. Open our hearts, Father, that the belief system that binds us and blocks us will be removed so we can move in what you have for us. I ask, Father, that you will absolutely open the heavens for us tonight and take us to a new place in your heartbeat. Take us to a new place in your spirit, Father. Take us to a new place in all of who you are. As we engage with sweet, precious Holy Spirit, as we engage with Jesus Christ, Yeshua, Christos. As we engage with Yahweh, our Father, fullness of the Godhead, we enter into the four faces. The lion, ox, eagle, man, we begin to understand the governance that we legislate into the earth out of that presence, out of that beauty. Father, we love you, we praise you, in the name of Yeshua. Amen. Okay, so, you guys well? Last week we were doing demonic trading floors. Obviously this week we're going to do the opposite, right? So we're kind of done with the demonic. I don't like particularly teaching that. I know that it's a knowledge that the church has to have, and of course it's something that's been taken from us, something we didn't know that we were doing. And it's really key, this is what it's all about, what you trade into, if it's based on man's theology or anything man has at hand, we have to be able to, through discernment, look at the motivation of what the man has at hand. And of course, because of the lack of our own understanding and knowledge, most of the time the mountain that we trade into is not what Yahweh had in mind. Right? Now, I'm not saying don't give into your church. I'm not saying don't give into different ministries. What I'm saying is make sure that you know, according to what's in your heart, that you're trading into a fruitful place that will give you the harvest you really want. And the logic of all trading is that I do not trade onto a floor without expecting something back. I mean, that's just pointless. It's like a farmer going into his field and sowing seed just for the fun of it. Right? But we don't do that. It's illogical. Well, you know, I just want to give to God because I love him. Well, yeah, that's not going to work. I mean, Walmart would really enjoy that. You know, people just go in there and give them money. But that's kind of not how it works. And of course, that's not what the Father wants either. His desire is to give back to you. But he does require sacrifice. And of course, we look at Yeshua as our example, and he presented himself as a sacrifice so that we can have life. So that's just kind of what it's about. That's the focus we need to put our minds to. What we're going to look at tonight is we're going to look at planting in your garden, trading on the sapphire stones before the throne, sowing and reaping, the blood and the cross, presenting yourself as a living sacrifice. Trading on the fiery stones that comes out of the river of fire, that comes out of Daniel. For example, it says love, joy, peace, it's the fruits of the Spirit. But I'm not going to go into too much detail regarding all of this. I just really want you to begin to understand that everything we do in the kingdom of heaven, when you go from this side of the veil to beyond the veil in the presence of Yahweh, everything you do from that moment on is trading. Because the Father's desire is for you to get to the place in your walk where you have literally given over every dimension of your life to Him. And of course we forget, but that is a trade. Every dimension of who you are that you present to Yahweh is a trade that opens up a door for you to go into a different place within the kingdom of heaven so that you can receive a revelation that can open another door for you to go to a higher place so that you can receive more and the Father can propel you into higher places. Of course, the Father can never give us everything at once. You ever heard that song? Everything at once? No? Okay, it's kind of nice. It's not Christian, but it's fun. My kids love it. But He cannot give us everything at once. That's why you don't go into the kingdom of heaven, take your scroll and see everything you're supposed to do right through all eternity. But that'll just freak you out. It's like the saying, how do you eat an elephant? You know, piece by piece. You can't eat the whole thing at once. It's impossible. Okay? How you guys doing? In Revelation 3:18 it says this, I counsel you to buy from me pure gold. Now understand this is Yahweh's talking, and we're in heaven. This is not on the earth, this is in the heavens. I counsel you to buy from me pure gold, purified by fire, so that you may be rich, and white clothes, so that you may be clothed, and so that the shame of your nakedness does not appear, and anoint your eyes with salve, so that you may see. Interesting. So really the Father wants you to begin to understand how desperately He wants us to prosper in heaven. Now this is very interesting because I was engaging in the heavens and the Father started giving me revelation regarding the glorified being that we're meant to be, and the fact that we can operate glorified spirit, soul, and body, and of course the new created man, which will be a glorified being. And I remember, I didn't already teach on it yet, I think, being glorified, not yet, okay. But the idea is that I had an engagement, and in its engagement, it was incredible. I was on the mountain of gold, and there was 4 rivers that shot out from the mountain. There was a lake or a bayou or a dam, whatever you would call it. And from that place, there was these rivers that shot out. And the Father began to show me that each one of these rivers represented a part of who I am. And the first one was the spirit man, and that had all the gold and the rubies and the diamonds and all the valuable stones that I would have thought, well, would make more sense if it goes to the body. You know, the body can do, the flesh can do with all the riches of the earth. But it was all allocated to the spirit man because the Father wants the spirit man to be rich. When the spirit man operates in a dimension of prosperity, it affects every other part of who you are. That's why most of the trading we're meant to be doing goes into the spirit realm. So if I take my tithes and I sow it into a ministry, I am engaging in the spirit realm, giving something to an invisible force by faith. Right? And if you think of tithing or giving somebody in the natural, it sounds really ridiculous. And I'm sure the world looks at it and thinks, well, that's just crazy. Right? But His desire for us is to understand that out of the sacrifice of our giving, out of the sacrifice of our trade, and again, it's nothing to do with finances. A portion of trading is finances, but it's how you present yourself to Yahweh within the kingdom of heaven. It's how you enter in and understand that, first of all, I enter in with blood. That's a massive trade. I'm going to get to that just now. I'm jumping ahead of myself. The fact is that we all trade, but we might have other terminology for it. Trading is about offering something in exchange for something else. It may be money or goods or other physical things, but it may also be love, a promise of God, your life, even the blood of Yeshua. So it's not just money. Of course, when we start talking about trading now, I know that trading is a whole new field for the church because we talk about tithes and offerings and giving and love offerings, those type of things. But the Father really wanted to change that because the heart of man in giving wasn't right. You know, we give to the man of God because it's an obligation, and it's been taught as an obligation, so we do it because we have to. Is there a reward for you in that? There isn't a reward for you in that. I don't give because I'm obligated to give. I'm not giving because someone is trying to manipulate me into giving. I present something to someone because of what they have that I want back. You know, I go to Walmart on a daily basis. I know, that's crazy. But me and my wife, we go there on a daily basis. First of all, it's a closed shop to us. We get everything there that we need. If we need something for the school kids, something for the school for the kids, it's there. We need shoes for the kids, it's there. We need clothes, it's there. We need healthy food. I know you have to struggle to find it, but it's there. Whatever you want, it's there. You know. But we go there because we want something in return. We have a small little shop right at the corner from our house. We don't go there all that often because it's expensive. And it really doesn't have everything that we need, but we go there to get maybe bread or to get some chips for the kids or maybe milk or whatever. And it's a little bit more expensive, but you go to where you want to trade for a specific reason. And of course you go there with purpose. And you can't just take what you want. You have to trade into it. That's just the logic of it. It is really that simple. But in the same breath, it is what the Yahweh would call a covenant exchange. Because you have to get to know Him to see His heartbeat for you. Because nowadays, because I get to go see Him on a daily basis, and I know that some of you do too, and we're beginning to understand as the ecclesia that our faith, at the measure that it used to operate, has now shifted into a whole new place. Because before I entered into the veil, or operate beyond the veil, I was on this side of the veil, having to believe that He's real. Having to believe that He loves me. Having to believe, even though I look at my circumstances and I see certain things happening around my life that frustrates or irritates me, that doesn't work. Finances are not what it should be. Business is not doing the way it's supposed to. My company is not promoting me like they said they would. There's so much happening in my day. I would begin to think, well, this is just it. He doesn't really love me. So by faith, I have to study the Word, read the Bible, have someone prophesy over me so that I can begin to believe that He loves me. Right? So, but in the kingdom of heaven, it's a different ball game. Because I step into His throne room and all that He focuses on. Matter of fact, if I just go into the heavens, into the kingdom of heaven, it's like heaven stops. Because there's a son or a daughter that just entered, and everybody is in awe of the fact that they've entered in, gone beyond the veil. Yahweh Himself gets excited. I told you guys the second time I went in, the protocol that I understood and how it should have been changed. Matter of fact, the first time I went in, I did it my way. How I perceived it should be. I was very scared. It was a freaky situation for me because, well, I was taught that if I see Him, I was going to die, and then He's sitting right in front of me, and He's coming closer. I'm beginning to see His face. I'm beginning to see His eyes. I'm beginning to see all these dimensions that I was told that I can't see, and if I do, I die. So it was a freaky experience. But the second time, everything changed. Because instead of me having to walk to Him, He jumps up out of His throne as Yahweh, not as God the Father, like we would think, well, He's just a measure of the Trinity. All of the Trinity, Yahweh, the Yahweh, the Vav, the fullness of who God is, and all creation, and all that He exists, the consuming fire dimension of Him, jumps up, runs to me, and picks me up. Because He is that excited to see us, and He held me and hugged me and said, "My son, I'm so glad you're back." And that's just incredible. So stepping into that place, I know that everything He does for me is to propel me to lift me up. Everything He looks at for me is to give me so that it can grow me. Every angel I've ever engaged, every one of the seven spirits, every one of the men in white linen, every one of the saints of old that I've engaged with or spoke to is there for me to grow and mature and go deeper into Him. But His desire for me is to understand that every encounter has a sacrifice. Now, every sacrifice doesn't have to be a blood sacrifice. Every sacrifice doesn't have to be this major thing in your life. But the Father's desire for you is to understand that when you trade something, when you give something to Him, it has to cost you something. And it doesn't have to be money. I remember going in, and the Father was busy shifting my life into a specific position to align me with my destiny scroll. And I had to give to the on the sea of glass to Him on the throne what's valuable to me. And at the moment, it's not like I have to think of what should I give. It's always there. And I know that doesn't always make sense, but I remember seeing all these buckets. And within the buckets were the fruits of my labor over the last 7 years. Like it wasn't 7 years at that point, it was probably about 5.5, maybe 6 years. And it was all these fruits that the Father said, well, that's what I want you to trade. And in my heart I said, no. I've worked hard for those fruits. I don't want to trade it. But I would say in my heart, that could be my conscious or subconscious, but in my heart of hearts I knew, well, I can trade this because His promise is for me and not against me. His promise is to prosper me and to lift me up. His desire is to multiply back everything I trade into Him. And of course that's where the Father is at, right? When I enter into a covenant relationship with God, then what is mine belongs to Him, and what is His belongs to me. How many understand that? We're all married in this room. And that's just how it works. Okay, there's another saying, whatever is mine, whatever is yours is mine. That's how my wife say it. But the reality is, in my family, and I don't know how you guys work with this, in my family, with me and my wife, there's nothing that's hers that's not mine. There's nothing that's mine that's mine that's not hers. Like even the guns that I have that she hates, it's hers. You know? I mean, the other day she almost bought bullets, which would have been. But then she thought to herself, no, I don't want to promote this too much. She hates guns, by the way. But we came to an agreement. I'm not allowed to have the guns and the bullets in the same place. So the bullets in the car and the guns is in the house. Help us, Jesus. But everything is hers. Everything that's hers is mine. Everything that's mine is hers. And then we begin to understand that in the kingdom of heaven, that is the truth. But as a covenant, me and my wife have, there's constant sacrifice. And we kind of forget about that. It's constant work. Now, it's not hard work, and it's not a frustrating work or an irritating work. It's a smooth work that comes with the covenant. I do what I do to please her. She does what she does to please me. And together we operate as a team that blesses each other. But everything we do is a sacrifice. Everything we do is to engage in a trade. Right? We understand the love language. Her love language is works. So there's certain things in the house that if I do, I can understand. If I trade into her love language by doing the dishes, picking up my clothes, keeping my cupboard clean, running through the house, picking up all the stuff that keeps her all over the place, that changes something in her. It's a trade that I do. No one else in my house does the dishes. That's my job. Do I like it? No. I hate the dishes. I think it's the stupidest, most retarded thing in any way, fashion, or form, right? That's why we operate with plastic spoons, plastic forks, plastic everything. Paper cups, paper bowls, paper... I would like to get some paper pots. Anybody know about paper pots? Okay. And of course, the fact that you have to wash the dishes to put it in the dishwasher. Yes. So whoever invented the dishwasher is retarded. But there's constant trade, and that's what it's about. And the same in the kingdom of heaven. I begin to understand the covenant that I have with Him is that He wants to bless me. Right. And that everything that I want is available to me in the engagement. Right? Just as there are different demonic trading floors, there are also different godly ones. For example, when I take a tithe or an offering to God, I actually go to the treasury room in heaven where Melchizedek presides in his capacity as chancellor. That's why we don't just give into nothing. We don't give out of obligation. We want to give with purpose. And now, and especially now that we're going beyond the veil and we go into the treasury room where we have what we give at hand and we present it to Him as an offering, a gift, there's a multiplication that changes everything. Because I do not just give so that I get multiplied in finances. I also give because I want to trade into His position. I want to trade into who He is. I want to get to know Him. And I'm talking about Melchizedek, and I know that could throw us off a little bit. It's still a saint of old, and there's many other saints of old that has many great positions within the kingdom of heaven that we get to engage. Of course, the idea of all of this is that you begin to see. And I don't want to go back to the whole seeing thing, but that is key to everything we're doing here. Everything I'm talking about, because the more you see, the more powerful your trade is. Because you don't just want to give into a man. You don't want to give into someone else's mountain. You want to give in a response to who you are and where you're growing to. Good. That's exciting, right? Okay, let's look at sowing and reaping. We have taught financial trading for many years as a principle of sowing and reaping. It's not new to anyone. No matter what denomination you come from, what religion you come from, there's giving in every religion. I say every religion, we know that there's only one religion, but there's many other belief systems there's even the actors of our day, the really wealthy men and women out there that has no belief system, that has no desire to believe in any God, but themselves, give. They give for a tax benefit, but they're still giving. Someone's getting blessed out of their giving. And of course they get a praise back. Again, the trade's not for no reason. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Okay, God promises increase on what we sow. So bring that promise with us and exchange for His fulfillment for what we have written out. For me, I remember sowing 2 cars in South Africa. Now, it's different to sow a car in South Africa than what it is to sow a car in America. Now, I don't know particularly exactly why, although actually I do know why. A friend of mine drove a 2006 RAV4. It was a charged up one, so it was a sport model, really beautiful, powerful car. He's looked after it for numerous amount of years. He bought it brand new. The value of this car to be sold was probably between $5,000 and $6,000. When he bought a new car, they wanted to take that car in as a trade, and he was only giving him $800 for it. Now that sounds like a bad deal, but it seems to be the value of second-hand things in America loses its value incredibly. In South Africa, I've noticed that, and probably in Europe and those countries as well, the second-hand things kind of have a value. But in America, you lose your value. So for me to give 2 cars away in South Africa was tough. I remember the first car I gave away wasn't a beautiful car, but I traded this car I had a motorbike. And in Cape Town, it rains all the time in winter. So I don't want to be on a motorbike. Someone wanted the car, I wanted the bike, so he wanted to trade me his car for the bike. I was like, okay, let's do it. I got the car, I drove the car for a while, and friends of ours were really struggling. They didn't have a car, and I felt the Lord telling me to give them the car. So I gave them the car. It affected us as a family, obviously, but it was a trade. And then a little bit later in our lives, the same thing happened again. We traded another car with a small car, really, it's called a Charade. You don't want to know. In fact, if I did not take my safety belt off when I get off of it, it'll hook to my back and I would walk in the shopping center with it. It's that small. It's not really. It's not that small, but it's pretty small. I say 1100 cc. And that's usually a motorbike. That's how small it is. And of course, European cars are much smaller than American cars. But I remember trading these cars, and for years there was no return. We always had car problems, and if I see a mechanic, I need to pray in tongues for at least 45 minutes before I actually have a conversation with him without punching him in the face. That's just how bad it's been for me in mechanics. Lately, in America, I must be honest, I've met some really incredible mechanics that's really blessed us. But the cars are of better quality, and I don't know why, but it is. But as soon as we came to America, we bought a car. Van. It was great. It was an incredible little thing. It looked after my family for the first 2 or 3 years. And then the transmission started getting problems. We sold it, and immediately someone started watching our videos on YouTube and parked the Suburban in our yard one day and said the Lord told them to buy it for us. Now, it's an old model, but it's been incredible. Then I had another car. I crashed it, and within days after I crashed it, someone gave us a check so that we can go buy another car. So sowing and reaping absolutely works. That's just a small portion of what we've done. I'm not talking about finances, just physical things that we've given. That's exciting, right? Effectively, the Father wants us to know that we can trade on the Word of God. If we find a promise in the Word, we can go and ask God actually to comply with it. And I thought the Father likes it when we remind Him of His promises. Right? When we understand trading or sowing and reaping is whatever you sow, you're going to reap. And really, it is in the motivation of the heart. And what I love about going into the kingdom of heaven, I don't just give. Say, for example, I feel in my heart that I need to give one of my spiritual sons or daughters a certain amount, a certain percentage of finances, money a month, or money, or when I get a big sum in, I will give it or trade. to my spiritual father or to one of the mentors in my life. But I don't just go give them the money, or I don't just pay into their account or send a donation. I go into the kingdom of heaven and I take that money and I literally get for it what I want in return. And if that makes no sense to you, the idea is the visual, to go in. I go into Walmart, I see what I want, I take it, I put it in my trolley, whatever you guys call it, what do you call it, a cart. I put it in my cart, it doesn't make any sense, but anyway. And I then scan it, it gives me the price, and for me to take that product out of the shop, I have to pay for it and get a receipt. And it works exactly the same way in the kingdom of heaven. His desire for you is to see what you want, trade for it. I can give someone money in his hand and say, well, that was my obligation. I came to your meeting, you know, I wanted to bless you. But the harvest in that's not what the Father wants. He wants you to go into the kingdom of heaven with that and present it to him. Present it to Melchizedek, to wherever you are, present it to him. Now that's just financial. I can take whatever I need. If I need, you know, for me personally, I remember going to the Sea of Glass, knowing that the Father wants to propel me. As I went there, it felt like I did something wrong. The Father started stripping me from all that I was wearing. I had an armor, I had a sword, I had the revelation, inside knowledge that I gained over the last 5 years. It was intense, and I was almost freaked out. I was basically stripped bare, and I was standing there thinking, what did I do wrong? And the Father, of course, knowing my thoughts, he said, no, my son, you did nothing wrong. I am taking you to the next level. And what you have right now is not good enough for where you're going. So we need to trade in what you have so we can give you a whole new dimension of what you need to go deeper and higher and wider. Now, of course, we understand that the promises of God is in Him, and it's yes and amen to the glory of God through us. His desire for us is to understand that you can trade with Scripture. It's His desire for you to take the promises and to constantly remind Him. Yes. But in the same breath, I don't just confess it, I don't just speak it. Because we've done that for many years, and really it doesn't really work. There's a measure of it that brings us, because of our faith, that can propel us into place. But when I take His word and I go into the kingdom of heaven and I see it, if I go into that future room and I begin to express my desire according to what I want to see, according to why I want to have the establishment of His promises in my life today, at the specific time that I'm at, how do I need to align my life for it to come into place? Because He can give you a prophecy, He can give you a promise, but why is that promise not coming into full fruition in your life? Because you're out of alignment. I know we haven't done it yet, but we're going to look at your soul gates and your body gates and your spirit gates. It needs to be opened. It needs to be aligned so that what the Father wants to pour in can be poured in. And of course, we go into the kingdom of heaven and we trade for these promises. And of course, for the Father's promises to fall in fruition in your life, there's certain things in you that need to change. Yes. Because it's not like this. We believe that, well, He's not ready to bless me yet because it's not the right time. Well, it is always the right time. It's just you're not ready. It's always like that. The Father doesn't wait for a specific time for things to happen because He doesn't live in time and space. He created time and space for us because of sin. That's the establishment of it. Outside of where He is, there's no time and space. Everything happens at once. I don't know if we understand that yet, but we'll eventually get to understand that everything happens at once. He is not bound by time and space. So He has to wait for you to fall into place so that He can pour into you everything you need and want for the time that you're in.
Yes.
Exciting, right?
That's good. Yes.
Let's look at the blood and the cross. This is something you'll find that you would want to trade with most. As a matter of fact, this is one of the things I do most of the time. I trade using the blood and the body of Yeshua in communion. Trading that for transformation in my own life and resonating with the frequency of God. This is eating and drinking of Him. It's understanding that whenever I take communion, that is a trade. When I step into the kingdom of heaven, I begin to eat of Him, begin to drink of Him, I am accepting what I'm presenting to Him, that it will change my DNA. Because I'm birthed into Him, I'm eating of Him, I'm taking off Him, and in return, as I take off Him, I give to Him. It's a transaction that takes place. And it's got to do with his body and his blood. And of course we understand his covenant. So as I take of him, I engage with him, I'm in covenant with him. It's that covenant trade that takes place. And of course you understand this and you will quickly begin to see it, and the more often you do it. But every time you take communion, your frequency goes higher. And of course the idea of your frequency is for it to stay at a constant pace. Now anything you do, drink coffee, eat something unhealthy, shout with somebody, get angry, any emotion that overshadows who you are brings the frequency down. Same in your physical body, same in your spirit. Anytime your spirit wants to do something that your soul overshadows you with, your frequency comes down. Now at a certain time, at a certain frequency level, you're opening your body to sickness and disease. That's why we want to keep our frequency as high as possible. That's why the idea is to live in the kingdom of heaven, body, soul, spirit. Now we haven't done body as much as we could, but for the last couple of years I've pictured my body in the kingdom of heaven to remind you that when I shift into the kingdom of heaven, kingdom being at hand, my soul and my spirit can physically be in the kingdom of heaven where I can see, touch, smell, and feel things, but my body is on this side of the veil. But I can, by faith, present my body in the kingdom of heaven on that side of the veil and remind yourself that I'm not moving anywhere. I'm just shifting dimensions, shifting kingdoms. So in essence, my body is in the heavens. Now that I haven't physically translated my body into the kingdom of heaven, now there are some people in the earth that's already doing that. Matter of fact, Mark Steen makes a statement where he says, I have to take my physical body into the kingdom of heaven every 2 days. Where he disappears off the face of the earth, goes in body, soul, spirit, for his body to be replenished when he comes back. Now, have you ever heard his testimony? He does not have a brain. In his brain cavity, there is just a blue flame burning. Now, I won't go into detail of that. That's great. Young Clayton shared a testimony where he was sitting next to him in worship, and he ascends in worship. And when he ascends, his spirit leaves his body, like so do we. But he dies. He said the first time he saw that, it freaked him out so much he didn't know what to do. Because he literally just turns blue and dies. There's no life in him because his spirit is the life in his being. That's the blue flame that burns in his brain. Now, I don't know how that works. I don't know how that's understood. He also shares testimonies where he wanted to show his kids something and around the tree, and he physically went into the tree. Now, again, that sounds, well, that must be demonic. That's the echo of the church always when something that weird takes place. But of course, we're beginning to understand it's not demonic. That demonic has really had its hand in all the things of Yahweh for such a long time, and the church has continued to give it to them. So we're just taking back what belongs to us, and the Father is opening doors for us to begin to operate as signs and wonders instead of in signs and wonders. It's really me giving everything to him and him giving everything back to me, multiplied and for his purpose, not mine. Now, how many of you understand this? We do not trade for our own benefit. This is key. Most of the time I go to the shop, and what me and my wife will do there is we buy clothes for our kids, maybe shoes, food. Now, we benefit out of buying food too, but the reason we go trade is for the family. If it was just me and her, we would have traded for each other and for ourselves. But we've got a big family, so when we go into the shop to buy stuff, we buy it for the family. When I go into the kingdom of heaven to grow, to mature, to get transformed, it's for the nations of the world. It's not for me. What am I going to do with holiness? Brag about who I am to someone else that's not going to benefit them. It's presenting yourself to the Father so He can change you, transform you, so that wherever you go, you're affecting everything you touch. That's the idea. That's what the Father longs for. At the cross, we can exchange our sin for forgiveness, unrighteousness for righteousness, old for new, sickness for health, of course, and more. That's why the blood and the cross is such key. We're beginning to understand it's not just about eating and drinking Him, it's about understanding what He did on that cross. The blood and the access in, the gateway, the doorway, the fact that He is now completely glorified after the resurrected state. I get into Him and I'm completely glorified because I'm in that erected state. And just understanding that trade, stepping into Him is a trade. Going through the bloodline, through His blood is a trade. Entering into the kingdom of heaven at the right hand of the Father in Christ is a trade. Taking Yeshua into the courts is a trade. because I use His name for everything I do. Matter of fact, in the courts, I can't do anything outside of Christ. In the kingdom of heaven, I can't do anything outside of Christ. In the earth, I don't want to do anything outside of Christ. That's my trade. That's why the cross and the blood is an incredible trade. Matter of fact, I do everything in the kingdom of heaven with those two, because it opens up any doorway I want to go into.
Come on.
Trading on the sea of glass. We know the importance of the motive and desires of our hearts. This is key. Why do you want what you want? You know, I remember I never go into debate with people, because it's like I never wrestle with people unless I was a wrestler. But I mean, like my friends who want to wrestle, you know, the boys like to do that type of stuff. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. But I just never liked it, because I don't like it. I just didn't like it. I didn't like wrestling, because I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to want to hurt you. I just didn't want to do it. So what is your motive? And I remember I didn't like conflict, because when you're in a fight, it's not something you want to do. That makes sense? So when you wrestle willfully with somebody, you kind of want to have fun, but you want to put him in a lock, you want to do stuff. I never liked that, because, I don't know, it's just not something I wanted to do. In school I was the fighter, and I was always in trouble because of it, but I never did it because it was something I wanted to do. I did it because I am stronger than most people, and I wanted to protect some of my friends. I did it because people irritated me, and I find myself just in that conflict. But the motive of the heart is that place where the Father wants to have us understand that everything you do has to come out of purity.
Yes.
You know, the reason I got tattoos, no one would ever understand it, because the religious mind can't perceive it. I never wanted a tattoo until I got born again. Then the Father even started showing me exactly what it's going to look like and how He wants me to put it on my body. And I said no for almost 15 years. As a matter of fact, it was 15 years from the day that He told me to do it until the time I actually did it. I just didn't want to do it. Eventually, I got it done, but it is the motive. Why do you want a tattoo? Why do you want to trade? Why do you want to do this? Why? That's why He goes as far as to say, what to the pure, all things are pure, because it's your motivation.
Yes.
Why do you want what you want? That's why the dividing of thoughts and intent of the heart is one of the keys to really have your trade multiply back to you in its full capacity.
Yes.
Because what's your motivation? Well, I give this money because I want to be rich one day. You're not going to get your fullness, because it's the motivation. Did I sow cars to get cars back? Absolutely. But my motivation was pure. I didn't give because I wanted to be seen. I gave because in my heart I said, Lord, I'm giving this because first of all, I have a family. We're still growing the family. I need decent cars. I want a bigger car. And so that's exactly what we traded for. Did I know that I was going to move to America 10 years later? No, I didn't. But the Father knew where the trade needed to come in full fruition, and that it was all about the motive of the heart. And of course, in the time of growth after I gave it, there was a lot of change that needed to take place for me to get where the Father wants us to be. We need to ensure that whatever we are looking for when we come to God is rooted in a pure desire to bring glory, honor, and blessing to Him. It is not about elevating or promoting us, about giving us a name. We are not trading to get something for ourselves. We are trading to see the kingdom of God advance and expand. It is all about Him.
Come on.
It's always all about Him. How are you guys doing? When we see, when someone compliments us, this is something that people don't understand, because this is what the church wants to do. As soon as someone comes up to me, people do that all the time. I like it, I don't mind. They say, oh, that was incredible, I loved it, that was amazing. And of course, the answer they're looking for, not that they come to look for an answer, but the answer they're looking for is, oh, it was just Jesus. Now, if I say yes, it was just Jesus, see, I'm not giving Him the honor that He wants, because I'm taking from Him. Because that's not all Jesus. I have to make a decision to move from my nation to this nation. I have to make a decision. So I need to take the affirmation given so that I can present it to Him.
Yes.
I present that affirmation to Him as a trade. And it brings great blessing because it brings honor to Him. And it's all about Him. Just as the elders cast their crowns before the throne on the sea of glass, of course we understand it's not actually glass, right? We too can offer him the position that men above accorded us. So when these men or these women come to me with the affirmation, and it happens all the time, and it's not, I'm not boasting in anything I do, but it's nice when someone comes and tells me that was a good word, I really enjoyed that. Sometimes you can tell that they were just lying, they were listening. But it doesn't matter, it's the affirmation that's really there to propel you. You know, people want that. But of course, in the same breath, they want you to say, well, it's all glory to Jesus. It's all about him. It's all him. It's all about him, and it is all him. I can't do anything outside of him. These revelations doesn't come to me outside of him. Nothing I do. I would never have moved to America outside of Christ. So in reality, everything is about him to me. But when someone gives me affirmation, what I do with that affirmation is I hold it in my heart. And then I take that to the sea of glass and present it to him. I trade thought with that for certain things in my life. Most of the time, it's deeper revelation, deeper intimacy, and greater revelation, a greater dimension of his fire. I thought his fire is a combination of presence, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, his glory, all that he wants me to walk in full fruition of it. We understand that the Father really wants us to begin to understand the principle of trading, especially when we go to the sea of glass. Now, the sea of glass is a dimension within the kingdom of heaven where the elders would go and cast their crowns. Now, we haven't done the crowns here yet, but when an elder casts his crowns, that crown gets multiplied back to him. It gets multiplied back to you. Whenever I trade something on the sea of glass, it gets multiplied back to me to propel me and bless me. It's like a judgment to life. And that's why I don't mind. That's why when you slay a dragon, there's the riches within the belly. When you take that riches, you put it in your mountain, it's there for you to trade for the nation. Say, for example, I go into New Orleans, the Father shows me something in the Spirit, one of the seven spirits takes me or directs me to a place and I see a dragon. I go through the steps of what to do. Eventually we get to the place where his belly gets cut open. Everything that falls out of that dragon, I get to take, put in my mountain, and I trade for that section of the city with it. For the people, for businesses, for everything and anything that needs to be aligned, I get to trade for. So I take that riches and I trade with it on the sea of glass. Now that's a high dimension of trading, but the Father's desire for us is just to understand there's much within the spirit realm that we can trade for. Of course, we also begin to understand we have a greater responsibility than just your own life. As a matter of fact, it's almost just not about you. You ever read a book about, says 40 Days of Purpose? Anybody read it? I think it was Rick Joyner. I think it was Rick Joyner, it could be someone else. But in the very beginning of the book it says, it's not about you. And then he carries on making some statements, and eventually he says, well, when you've made it all about him, you'll quickly realize that he makes it all about you. So in reality, it is all about you. But for it to become all about you, you have to make it all about him. Let's look at the living sacrifice. We've done the living sacrifice here, haven't we? We did, yeah, we did. Okay. It's of course we are giving our lives in exchange for a return. You know, I give my life to Yeshua. What does he give me back? Eternal life. Right? I mean, Yeshua gave his life to us so that we can, in return, we return back into his image. So no one gave for no reason. Everybody gives for a specific purpose. So whenever I surrender as a living sacrifice to God on the altar of incense, I am trading. I am exchanging my old for the new that comes with the revelation of being in relationship with him and out of the intimacy that I have with him. This is where Galatians 2:20 falls into place. It's no longer I who live, but Christ that is in me. I love this scripture. It's one of my favorites. I exchange my old life for the new life, that the life I now live, I live by the faith in the Son of God. When I present myself at a sea of glass to Yahweh, I literally get to step into his faith. It's another dimension of what we have done on this side of the veil. It's stepping into that place where the Father just pours into me and begins to open me up to the fullness of what I need to be able to walk in. I present myself to him as an instrument of righteousness. I am dead. I deny myself, and his whole life opens up to me. That's a trade I love doing. I love presenting myself to the Father. Then we do revelational trading. This is one particular application of trading that you might have seen before. Some of the meetings we have in the Spirit School, we do the open trading. Mostly in New Orleans, in the conferences, you guys remember the people would come while I'm really teaching, when someone's preaching, they will put money in while he's really teaching. And it's a smaller portion of what you already decided in your heart to give, but the idea is that you trade into a specific section of the message. When a speaker has said something and people want to engage into it, they come and give a small amount of money to trade into the revelation. They are honoring the revelation and want to receive blessing from engaging into it. That's one of the ways that I believe I have received a revelation and insight on the things that I teach over the years, because I will go and I will purposely trade into my mentors to get back the revelation. So it'll be a small portion. With Ian Clayton, it's not so easy, but you will go onto his website and buy one or two of his teachings. There will be $10 or $15 you want to trade into that teaching so you can get the revelation. Because you can listen to a message a million times and just not get it, until you start trading into it and all of a sudden it opens up for you. Part of our trade is also to constantly pursue Him. We need to make sure that we are coming from purity in the heart with these things, because it will cause a multiplication for which we have to be ready. It's His desire to pour into us. When we come to Him with a pure heart, when we come to Him to trade and to lay down our lives, His desire is instantly to open gates for us and to allow it flood into our lives. That's where the thousandfold comes into, in every area of life, not just financially, mentally, emotionally, socially, physically, spiritually. He wants to pour into us. Exciting, right? God is gracious. He does not give us everything we want all at once, because He knows we cannot always have the wisdom to handle it. Even revelation comes in progression rather than all at once. And this is just normal. This is just reality. This is understand. We understand these things. His desire for us is to begin to walk in all the things that He has for us by giving into the things we want. This is just logic, and I think He wants us to really begin to understand how valuable He finds the things that we give Him. Because you think to yourself, I always go to myself and go, what can I possibly give a God that has everything, knows everything, is everything? He doesn't need everything. He has no needs. What can I possibly give Him? And then of course He would say, well, you don't understand how desperately I want to be in covenant with you, how desperately I want your life, how desperately I want you to choose me above everything else, how desperately I want you to trust me. Every time I choose Him above something else, I give honor to Him and I trade into Him. And that's when He begins to open up and pour into me. Right? Of course, the Father's desire is to restore. The revelation of the heavenly trading has been stalled by events that have happened in human history. For example, God wrote the 10 Commandments on tablets of stone with His own hand when Moses brought them out of heaven. This is where trading all started. And I didn't say that's where it all started, but this is kind of what happened and why trading stopped. I'm just going to read this because I want to get it right. When Moses brought them out of heaven, he was on a sapphire trading floor. He was bringing the engagement of the revelation of God into this realm from out of heaven. Just remind yourself, he went into heaven with nothing. He disappeared in front of thousands of people, millions of people, came back with 2 stones in his hand. So he literally manifested the invisible into a visible realm, and it was visibly seen. So that was a dimension of trading that we haven't experienced yet. But when he saw the golden calf and all that was going on in the camp, Moses broke the stones. And an understanding of trading on the sapphire trading floor was lost as a result. That's why the Father's heartbeat for right now is to regain that. I've heard many testimonies of people saying that I've gone into the kingdom of heaven, I had my hand full of something, I came back into the natural, and it was still in my hand. But let me tell you something, if you've been in the kingdom of heaven, you understand what great value you can bring back into this earth. And of course the Father's desire for us is to be wealthy beyond what we can understand or fathom. Not because He wants you to live in a big house and drive a fancy car, because He wants the nations to be blessed through the sons of Yahweh.
Yes.
Of course, we won't have that finances until we begin to understand what the purpose of it is, right? I believe God's going to restore that revelation knowledge in days to come. He will unveil much more revelation on how to use trading and the trading force of heaven and the seven spirits. And I love the fact that the seven spirits have taught me much regarding trading. Now, I've said this before, and I'm going to kind of close with this. I've never been a giver. I've never understood trading. I remember having an argument with one of my spiritual father's daughters regarding trading and thinking that it's stupid. Why would you want to go and trade in the heavens? It didn't make any sense to me. I was a little baby, I didn't understand it. Now I've walked with the seven spirits, and I say I've walked with the seven spirits as if you don't do it again, but it's something you have to constantly do over and over again because there's so many different levels of revelation that they pour into you. But having gotten to the place in my walk where I understand if I don't trade, I don't grow. I have to present myself in the kingdom of heaven as a living sacrifice. I have to go at the sea of glass, and I have to take that which is in my mountain and trade for the nations. It's my responsibility as one of Yahweh's sons to engage in trading and to have an understanding of what I need to do. Of course, we get to understand the fact that He wants us to begin to walk in this on a daily basis. And of course, He will give you the revelation you need for where you're at. Everyone's not at the same level. You know, I read this, I studied this, I've engaged this, the Father showed me some things, but I know I haven't even touched base on it yet. I know that there's higher dimensions of it, and there's so much for me to engage in. So what we've done tonight is really just the basics of trading. But once you know this and you start doing it, you'll start seeing how your life will open up for revelation inside of a greater dimension of knowledge. Exciting, right? Yeah. Let's stand. Father, we just want to love on you and praise you and worship you. And of course, Father, we want to thank you for who you are. We want to thank you for what you give us. And I know that it's not just because we want, but you pour into us. I know my sons and my daughters in my family, how much I just want to give to them, how much I just want to bless them, how much I want to make them happy by looking at their desires and the things that they want, and I want to give it to them. And how much more will you want to pour into us, your sons and your daughters, Father? So let us begin to understand how it works. I know that for me to give to my sons and daughters, it is so much easier to give to them what they want when they have traded back into the family, when they have presented themselves to us as faithful, Father. And I ask that you will bring a revelation to everyone in this room. And as we go into the kingdom of heaven, as we present ourselves in this fiery stones in heaven, Father, as we present ourselves at the sea of glass, as we go to your throne to present you with our covenant, Father, let the things that we trade for have intense returns, Father, because I know everyone in this room wants to grow and mature. Everyone in this room trades and sows financially into this ministry because they want revelation. They want to go deeper, higher, wider. So, Father, I pray that as we begin to engage trading, as we begin to understand what it means to take off our fruit, to take off revelation, to take off intimacy, to take off your blood, to take off the cross, to take off the things that you've poured into us, and give it to you, that you multiply back to us in dimensions that grows us and matures us beyond what we can fathom and understand. A company of people that will be mature, a company of people that will walk the earth as sons and daughters of Yahweh. And Father, I know that it comes out of understanding trading and growth and the multiplication that you desire to give to us as we begin to give to you as living sacrifices, laying our lives down at your cross, representing ourselves to you, dead, so you can rise up in us, Father God. It's no longer we who live, it's no longer I who live, it's Christ who lives in me. And we begin to understand what that really means. And as we operate from your throne, out of that, we're beginning to grow, and we're beginning to change, and we're beginning to become what we need to be. Father, it's an honor to love you. It's an honor to be in your presence and your midst, Father God. And I see the change in the hearts of your people, and it's incredible. So we want to thank you, and we want to praise you, and ask for revelation for everyone in this room regarding trading. In the name of Yeshua. Amen.